like half of our existence right there. So it's crazy to see this much history, this much beautiful architecture and everything in the city, and it's such a big city. It's like there's parts of it that remind me of New York, and I lived in New York for a number of years. So I'll see places that remind me of Soho, and then I'll see places that I've never seen anything like it before. So it's been fun. I'm enjoying it. It's at the part of fight week right now for me where it's like we're doing the tourist thing, we're exploring, we're enjoying the moment, and now I'm slowly flipping the switch. Now the weight cutting has begun, heavier. Tonight's pretty much taking the weight off, less food, less water, more media. So that alone just kind of prepares you mentally for what's ahead.
And Alan, it's great to see you. Obviously, you were undefeated last year. You've been calling out for a big opponent. How did you feel when you got the call you were going to be fighting Gunnar Nelson?
I was ecstatic. Yeah, I was ecstatic. I said absolutely right away. I was just told by someone that Gunnar was turned down by 4 different opponents, and I was the 5th opponent. And if they know me and they know what I've been asking for, they should have asked me right away. I should have been the first person in line. I told them from the get-go. I called out 4 or 5 top 15 people. I was in New York for 205. I was there to take Kevin Gastelum's place to fight Donald Cerrone on 1 day notice. I offered that. It wasn't the UFC's fault. Commission wouldn't allow it. But they know by that phone call that I'm a guy that would step in for a big name. I'm tired of fighting sideways guys. I want to fight up. And if there's a guy that I could fight up against, I'm available. I don't have a tremendous weight cut either. I walk around like 190-ish. I fight at 170. That's always keeps me within reason to make weight within a couple of days. So Gunnar was a fight that not him specifically, but Gunnar was a fight that I wanted. I was saying, look, I'm being reasonable. I'm not asking to fight Tyron Woodley. I just want a top 15 guy. I deserved it. I went undefeated last year. I put guys away. I got all these fight of the night bonuses. Give me somebody big, man. Let me prove myself. Months went by, and the UFC wasn't giving me a fight. So I took initiative. I got on Twitter, started calling out guys. Nothing was happening, and then finally I got the call. They offered me Gunnar, and like I said, I don't like to travel too much. Maybe once a year. If they had offered me London on a prelim against somebody that wasn't a name, I probably would have turned it down. But Gunnar, number 9, co-main event. Let's do it.
Alan, the Mike Perry fight, that was a fight. I know you've been quite vocal about not being a big fan of the way he goes about things, his trash talk. The flip side to that is it put a lot of shine on that fight. There were a lot of eyeballs on that fight, and you picked up that win. Have you noticed a real sort of lift in terms of interest, in terms of what you're doing, and the amount of attention that you're now getting leading into this one?
It's been different, and it's kind of taken me a minute to realize that it's been better for my career and been beneficial. It just took me a minute because, man, at heart, I will always be a guy that grew up watching Rocky come back in fights, a guy that idolized Van Damme in Bloodsport. Like, that's kind of what's in my heart, and that's kind of how it shaped me as a fighter. You could have people teach you martial arts, and you'll take a percentage of their style, but then you also have what's in your DNA, what's in your heart, and then kind of what you grew up as. And I think a combination of all those made me that guy that was getting in wars, getting knocked down, getting back up, and finishing guys. And I relish those moments, though, man. Like, I relish people saying that was a fucking insane fight, and like that gets addicting when people were talking about, yeah, you had a great performance, but did you see that fight? That was a dope fight. And those kind of things I relish. Going against Mike Perry, that fight would have put it in his. With that whole camp, we talked about numbers, and like, why put the numbers in his favor? Mike Perry's only chance, I'm better than him at every aspect of this, but if I stand toe-to-toe and he lands one punch, I get knocked out, the douchebag wins. Why give him that opportunity? So I didn't give him that opportunity. I fought a smart fight, and at the end of it, I was like, okay, I did what I had to do. I won. I knocked him down a couple times, didn't finish him, whatever. And then I saw the write-ups after it, and it was very rewarding. It was not a normal feeling, a normal write-up on me, like the smart, the tactical fighter, the great footwork, the head movement, he fought a smart fight. That's what they kept relaying. And finally I realized, you know what, man, like, why wouldn't I fight that way all the time? I do a lot of fight analysis stuff, like with, I do a podcast in the States with Karen Bryant, and we break down the fights every weekend. And what I've learned is, if I'm breaking down fights and I'm saying, this is exactly how this guy should fight this guy, and this is what I would do if I was in his position, why wouldn't I do that on myself? And that's what I've been doing now. I break down fights, and I say, how would I beat myself, or how would this guy beat me? And it's worked. It's made me a smarter fighter. I'm getting hit less, and last I saw, I was leading the division, I think, in significant strikes per minute. So I'm hitting people more, getting hit less. That's the kind of numbers that I need.
We're looking at those stats.
In that build up to the fight with Mike Perry, there was a lot of animosity, and it was something that I think at the time you didn't like or particularly like. With Gunnar Nelson, it will be very different. He's very ice cool and calm. Is that an approach you prefer? Just get on with the fight itself rather than all the kind of antics that go on beforehand?
Absolutely. I've said before that I enjoyed getting the fire lit under my butt sometimes, people getting in my face. There's one thing, somebody building a fight, and there's another thing when people are just outright disrespectful for a long period of time. And that's what Mike Perry was. I'm not here to bash Mike Perry. I just state that I don't like him as a person, or the way that he goes about things, the way that he treats people, people around him, the way that he carries himself. It's not my style, man. So it made it a very long 8 weeks, waking up and having to read him talking shit to me every day on Twitter, and he wants to flick me off or make little remarks. It's just like, let's get this shit over with, man. We're going to fight on Saturday. You want to trash talk me every day in the hotel? We're going to be locked inside of an octagon very soon. We'll get it done then. So it was very gratifying to get the win against him. Going into this fight against Gunnar Nelson, he's a complete polar opposite. He's a guy's quiet.
Can you get excited without
Absolutely, man. Because all it does now is it allows me to just focus on the fight. I don't need it. I kind of learned that throughout your career and throughout anything in life, you receive a feather in your cap. You receive a life experience or a work experience every time you do a different job. If you interview me or you interview somebody else, somebody talks a lot, somebody talks a little bit less. You figure out how to get the questions, how to get the answers, how to get your end goal. And the same thing with fighting, man. I've dealt with the shit talkers like Mike Perry. I've dealt with the quieter guys. Now that I know what I prefer, I don't need the shit talkers anymore. I know how to light my own fire under my ass. I'm completely focused on nothing but getting the job done Saturday night against Gunnar Nelson, so I don't need any trash talk.
You talk about that focus, you're talking about the statistics. We're looking at the odds. You're 2-1 underdog against Gunnar Nelson. Do you expect that?
I would expect nothing less, man, to be honest. I'm underdog in quite a bit of my fights. Gunnar is he's the ranked fighter. He's fought the bigger names, and we're fighting in his backyard. So, yeah, it would have surprised me if it wouldn't have been. And to be honest, I kind of like that. I've been somewhat of an underdog my whole life in things, and so it does add that quiet fuel to the fire without trash talking, and I usually do perform very well with it. So, yeah, it doesn't faze me at all.